Welcome to the Leadership with Biana Kovic Show, and thank you for being with us. Our topic, leadership, focuses on leaders such as yourselves. We believe that leadership is a skill that can be learned through practice and awareness. It is our hope that our conversation will help you become more reflective when it comes to your own leadership practices and enable you to leave a positive legacy. Our very special guest is Maru Dávila. Maru is a celebrated health nutrition coach, chef, international best-selling author, and former competitive triathlon and marathon runner. She's a frequent TV guest, writer, and a speaker on detox, healthy eating, weight loss, wellness, and empowerment topics. Born in Mexico City and immigrated to the United States to pursue her MBA at Harvard Business School after a successful corporate career in a Fortune 500 company, Maru has written a best-selling book called The Mexican Food Diet: Healthy Eating That Feels Like Cheating, available on Amazon and bookstores. Maru is the founder and the CEO of Flaca Forever. Her company empowers women to transform their lives through the power of nutrition. Maru was also founder of several other companies in male-dominated industries, including banking and telecommunication. Maru, good evening and welcome to the show.
Biana, good evening. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Maru, you are the CEO and the founder of Flaca Forever, and I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about your company.
Yes, Biana. I created this company, Flaca Forever, which, by the way, it means lean or fit forever. When I decided to become the CEO of my health, I had been struggling for 30 years with weight and emotional and physical health issues that no diet or doctor or medicine was able to help me with. And I just got tired of feeling fat, sick, and sad too often. So I don't know, something came in me that suddenly I decided I needed to get back in control of my weight, my health, and my life, but for good. I was just done with starting and failing. So I think I did a good decision because my instinct said I needed to go back to school to learn how to use food to look and feel good again. And I think I did it right because it did work. On top of going to school, I surrounded myself with the most progressive doctors and wellness experts to make sure that I could understand what are the best practices and, have somebody to bounce back ideas as I learned. And then I began experimenting on myself. I needed a lot of help, so it was great because I had my own pilot testing on myself. And I finally ended up with something that worked for me, and I developed a proprietary process because I wanted to teach other people how to do it. In my case, it allowed me to lose the 60 pounds that I had been accumulating without gaining it back. It's been several years. So I went from a size 11 to a size 2. But you know what? More importantly, I think, is that I was able to overcome the many health and emotional issues I had been struggling with. It was decades, Biana, that I had been having depression, digestive issues, and chronic sinus infections was awful, but I had yeast infections that I felt really bad with. And then I also had asthma that it started in my 40s, and I didn't know where it came from. And, doctors just said it just happened. But I learned that a lot of those issues were related to how I was feeding myself. And through my own experimenting and studying, I learned that I could change those things. And I have to tell you that I have not had to go to the doctor in, I think, over 4 years. I don't take any medicines. And today what I do through Flaca Forever is I am focused and just passionate like crazy in empowering and inspiring people to eat healthier and get in the best shape with the power of food. And when I say shape, I'm thinking in 3 angles: physically, mentally, and emotionally. Because, physically everybody wants to look good, right? But I also think that it's very important to address our mental and emotional well-being, and it is strongly affected through what we put in our mouths. So as I say, I think you may have heard me mention, it is never too late to look and feel great because, look, I figured it out in my mid-40s, and today I feel like better than ever.
So what I really like about your company is that you are looking at the food very holistically, and you talk that actually food impacts directly your behavior, your mood, your productivity. And you have talked about smart food and stupid food. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, I think there's 2 types of food. Their smart food are those foods that are going to help you get healthier, look better, and feel happier, and stronger. So, those are the types of food that I today focus on. And that's why I don't need any medicines. And that's why I've been able to turn my health and my life around. And then there are those stupid foods, which they sabotage all your efforts. They increase toxicity in your body. That toxins eventually make you sick and make you struggle with weight. They increase inflammation. They affect your immune system. They damage your gut. They keep you, down. Even if you think you're happy, you may not know that you're not as happy and strong and powerful as you were born to be when you have all those stupid foods clouding your brain and, of course, your health. So that's how I see life. You choose either this or that. Now, what I did is I decided that I wanted to eat smartly, but also very tasty. Like I was not willing to go and deprive myself or eat little or just eat boring foods because I did that a lot. Imagine in my 30 years of yo-yo dieting and all that, I did everything from starvation to whatever diet you may think. And that's not sustainable, right? And it is boring. So that's why, today I'm a celebrity chef because I focus a lot on teaching people that it can be fun to eat good, to look and feel good. And again, I always cover the two angles.
So what you're saying to us, you don't have to deprive yourself from food that you like to actually be in a good shape and eat healthy, right?
No, you shouldn't, because if you do, then it's not going to be sustainable. I mean, I believe in being happy, and I get excited when it's time to eat. Now, I eat at the right times, and I eat a lot, but I eat a lot of the good stuff. I'm never hungry, and I always make sure I go to places or have things that really fuel me and make me feel good. And I will not sacrifice that at all, because once you learn what it really feels to be your best, you're not going to let anybody or anything get on your way. And that's what I really am passionate in, helping people and empowering people to understand and discover how great they can feel eating the right foods and in the right way. Again, tasty, satisfying meals and foods. It's not a destination. It's a lifetime journey of discovering how you can feel and be better.
Yeah, it seems to me it's a lifestyle that you're teaching people. You're basically guiding them to have a better lifestyle. Am I right about that?
Correct. And I want to empower them because, at the beginning, when you're starting your journey, you may be just stuck on certain foods. The stupid foods are actually addictive. I mean, a lot of people don't think or talk about it, but I've experienced them. And even once I learned and started to experimenting, I saw that if I went back to them, they're addictive. I mean, like right now, I don't crave them and I don't need them and I don't care about them. But the moment you start eating them, and that's why kids and a lot of people, you can't stay away from those things. So you got to get some tools and practices and things you need to do before you can overcome those cravings, because it's not going to be like, you're not strong or you don't have willpower. It's just there's certain things that keep you in a negative, destructive cycle, and you got to learn how to break them. And then obviously once you break them and you see that it really feels great and you can really achieve better physical and mental wellness, then you got to keep learning, how can you maintain that? How do you make sure you stay healthy and fit despite our crazy lifestyle, right? So that's another thing I'm passionate about, saying that it's never too late and you're never too busy. You can always figure out how to do simple and have a healthier lifestyle.
So Flaca Forever has a detox plan, and you basically advise people what to eat. Am I right about that?
Yeah, so I help people in a variety of ways. Some people work with me one-on-one. Some people work with me through my group programs. Those are more, the physical programs are locally in California, but other people work with me online. They buy my products or my programs or my coaching or my books, right? I have a variety of ways how I show people that it's possible. And by leading by example, I show people how I live my life, how I deal with my challenges, how I deal with a busy life, being a mom, a business owner, a celebrity chef traveling all over the country. I mean, it's not easy, but you can do it. I mean, and the reason I do it is because I've discovered the power of how great I feel and can look. And I like that. I don't want it to go away.
And thank you for mentioning the book that you wrote. It's a best-selling book that's available on Amazon. It's called Mexican Food Diet. Can you tell us a little bit more about that book?
Yeah, you know what? It's funny how I landed on that, because I never liked Mexican food. In the 30 years I struggled with my weight and my health, even though I'm Mexican, by the way, right? I stayed away from it because I think I, like everybody else, thought that Mexican food was, a bad thing if I wanted to lose weight, right? So I just didn't even touch it. And later, when I started my journey and started to get educated and working with the doctors I mentioned, I realized, I said, okay, so who are my enemies? Because that's how I see things. Like, who do I have to overcome? Who do I have to beat, right, to win this battle against health and weight that I was having? Because now it was not only my weight. Now I was like totally a mess in my health, physically and emotionally. So I ended up identifying three main enemies. The number one were those cravings that I mentioned. I could not control my cravings. They were just driving me crazy because I would say, okay, during all day I would behave well, but in the afternoon and evening, I just couldn't control it. And I didn't mention earlier, but I had eating disorders. So I struggled with a variety of eating disorders starting since I was 15. So those cravings would just make me do crazy things. So that was one thing I had to overcome. Second was toxins. I had been accumulating toxins through everything, right? You get toxins inside your body because of the food you eat, the water you drink, the air you breathe, the products you use in your home or your skin. And then also if you don't understand what foods are not good for you, because not only because they're stupid, but there are foods that are not stupid, but they're not good for Maru, right? Or there are others that may not good for Biana, which may be different. So if you don't understand that, that also increases toxins. And the third thing was inflammation. Those three things, I had to find out how to solve them. So cravings, like I said, they're addictive. So I decided I had to find what are the techniques that help with cravings. So one is learning how to feed your body and your brain with the correct foods that will definitely feed your cells and keep yourself not craving the bad stuff. And one good way I found is by detoxifying was a great way, which I'll talk in a second when I refer to toxins. But I also learned that to address cravings, I had to find a new way of eating that I would like, that would keep me satisfied, and that would, be something that I crave, but that was good for me. So changing from cravings that were killing me and keeping me fat to cravings that were going to empower me and allow me to stay lean. And then the second one, which is related to cravings, is toxins. I already told you how they come in, but I learned through my studies that reducing toxins to the maximum you can is key for weight and health, because toxins keep you fat. They get stored in our fat cells. And while you have a lot of toxins stored in your fat cells, you cannot lose that fat. So that explains why, even though at times I was, for example, a competitive triathlete, there were certain parts in my body that I could not get rid of. So that now explains I was pretty toxic. And then the other thing is toxins damage your cells. So eventually they will get you sick in light or major ways like depression, diabetes, because toxins are also stored in your brain, right? But depression, dementia, diabetes, cancer, things that if I can avoid, I want to avoid, because I don't want to get anywhere near that, right? So I definitely work hard on getting toxins as low as I can. And third, toxins will not keep you feeling your best. They also affect how you think. And for all of us, want to be leaders and business leaders, you want to be able to think, right? You have to resolve a lot of challenges and difficult situations. You've got to be resilient and all that. So you got to keep your brain in shape. And I learned that toxins, when they're not stored in the fat cells, they're stored in your brain and they affect you. So no wonder I was like, all these years, remember, on and off depression and having to take antidepressants. I mean, today I don't need anything. I just know how to stay clean and eat well. So seeing those three enemies, I already explained you what they are. I finally ended up finding what are the best foods to address those three things. And guess what? I realized that the ingredients that kept coming up as the best for toxins, cravings, and inflammation were in Mexican food. So I started looking closely into Mexican food. I went back home and studied our family recipes. And then I knew now I had the knowledge to adapt them, which some of them didn't even need to adapt because they were healthy in their own way. And so I saw Mexican food the best solution. It is very satisfying and tasty. That will help with cravings, right? And it's detoxifying. It uses a lot of ingredients that are great to detoxify. For example, just to give you a few, cilantro, lime, and then it's amazing for inflammation. I mean, I didn't touch on it, but inflammation is the leading cause of all diseases. So you want to keep that inflammation down. And some great things for inflammation are onions, garlic, beans, So just to give you an example, but I went ahead and decided to come up with tasty meals that would be loaded with smart foods, no stupid foods allowed, and created that book as sort of like a Kickstart, like showing you how it can be not so boring to eat good. I mean, Mexican food is not the only way, but I just found it a very good way to satisfy the 3 needs I had.
And just to kind of go over the stupid foods, I actually read your blog. You said stay away from sugar and don't eat cheese. Am I right about that?
Yeah. So sugar is one of the most stupid foods because it increases toxicity severely. It's addictive, so you can't stop it. And then it creates major inflammation and anxiety and all these things for your emotional well-being. And dairy, I do think dairy is stupid because it creates also inflammation in most people. Now, there's a very large percentage of people that also either can't process all their lives dairy or at some point or later in their adult life stop being able to, and it's not lactose only because lactose is the sugar, but there's also proteins that are a problem for certain people like me. Now, dairy was one of the main reasons I was getting those infections, and it was also giving me the asthma. And how do I know? Because obviously I studied, but also I tested it. After being clean for a while, I decided to have some cheese plate in a dinner. I had a major cough attack the next day that lasted, all day, and it went away once I stopped. Now, my daughter was born with severe respiratory issues, Biana. I was in the doctor and in the hospital for like almost every week for the first 3 years of her life. When I sort of like changed my diet and saw that I was able to fix some of my problems by taking out dairy, I tried it on her and the same thing. No more asthma, no more inhalers, no more hospital stays. I did test both myself and her after, and I confirmed that we both had issues with dairy, among other things.
And you mentioned that food does impact your brain function. Can you talk to us a little bit more about that? Because we all want to have a clear mind to be effective leaders.
Yeah, I didn't know that I didn't have a clear brain until now, right? Because now I know what it is, clear brain. And sometimes, even though I'm very clean, I try to do a focused detox effort 4 times a year because I can see things start to accumulate. Why? Because I'm not I can't be isolated from the world and I'm still not perfectly clean. I use certain products on my skin and my house not perfectly, clean yet because we still use certain products. So I start accumulating toxins, and the way I feel it is I have this what's called brain fog. You probably know it, and I don't know if you've experienced it, but a lot of people don't know they have it until you don't have it. And what that gives you is you're not as sharp. I mean, for me, for example, also if I drink wine, which I try to moderate because it gives me brain fog because I personally have a little bit of a more challenging experience with removing toxins from my body, which obviously alcohol has to go through your liver and, your liver has to work it out. I have a challenging detoxification system. So I immediately start feeling like I can't remember things or I start losing things more often or I'm just not as sharp. And I can see looking back when I wasn't working on my mental health, I was eating a lot of junk and having all these issues. So what I realized is that eventually I started to make really bad decisions. Eventually one day I just found myself where the strong, determined, driven woman that had been working hard to get to the top suddenly was not confident. I was making one bad decision after the other. And it was not only in my business, it was in my career, in my professional life, in my love life, in whatever life, everything. Eventually it catches up. For some of us sooner, others later. But even if it doesn't hit you as it hit me, you're just what I see is that I was living my life at half or less than half of my potential by just not having a clear and healthy mind.
Interesting. So what you're saying to us, the food is very connected to your mind. Therefore, you have to be highly aware what you're eating.
Yeah, and that's a lot of people when they start working with me and they go through my other program is the Reset and Renew program. I mean, they all come because everybody wants to look better or lose some weight, right? But when I ask them, and they start getting results and I see they're losing the weight, let's say people that haven't been able to lose weight for years, they finally start seeing results. They don't come and tell me, oh my God, Maru, I'm so happy I finally lost the weight. I know they're happy, Do you know what they tell me first? Oh my God, I just feel amazing. I just feel great. And I'm like, and so that, what I love about that is if I can get them to at least start, because the main thing is just to start. Once you start, it's pretty easy. Then they start feeling so good that they're more motivated to do everything, including being healthier. And so I just got to get them to start, because then once I have them, and then I know they're going to keep coming back and back to me because they've never felt so good.
That's great. And I know that on October 6th and 7th of this month, you will be having a 2-day wellness retreat to help people rejuvenate, rebalance, and experience transformation. Can you tell us a little bit more about that event?
Yeah, it's going to be in La Jolla. It's the first time I'm doing it. It's actually in my house, and it's all about reset, rejuvenation, recharging. And we're going to be talking about everything from food, how to live a clean and healthy life with the power of food, to natural solutions to empower your physical and emotional well-being. So we'll be doing practices and tools that will allow the woman to go back home and, feel more alive, be more present, have more energy. Like, for example, of course, the nutrition, as you know, as a chef and all that, it's all about my philosophy of healthy eating that feels like cheating. The good thing also is that because I'm very busy, I don't really tend to teach things that are elaborate, because I actually have no patience. So I'm not like the one that's going to be cooking for a thing for 100 steps. So I teach them tasty things that will keep them excited. And then we'll do yoga, meditation, learn how to use essential oils to de-stress, detoxify, recharge, support body and mind. Obviously, how to keep a low-tox life and home, very important. And mindfulness practices, it's so important nowadays. We also have some other exciting things like biohealing. It's a technique that, I'm bringing an expert well-known internationally to do removing of emotional blocks that sometimes can keep you stuck or in pain or make you sick or keep you with, eating, like emotional eating. And of course, we'll teach them self-care rituals. It's so important because I have to say that for me, through all my journey, I stopped taking care of myself. And then I learned that without self-care, you can't be anything. I mean, you can't be a good mom, you can be a good businesswoman, you can be a good nothing. I mean, so for me, everything starts with taking care of myself every day, no matter what, and then I can be the best for other people, including my business.
And that event will also feature different experts, right? You're going to have a yoga teacher, you mentioned.
Yes, and the other thing, because we do the whole beautifying from the inside out and helping women feel more confident and beautiful. So we start with the food, all these practices that you say, yes, we have an expert from Australia coming to do some yoga meditation. And then we have also, the biohealing expert, and she's the founder of a very renowned institute for biohealing. And then we have somebody doing savvy styling, teaching us how to make smart choices in clothes to look good, no matter what type of body you have or budget. And then I will also having some exercise classes that are great to reduce toxins and fat. And last, we're going to be doing some celebrity makeup tips and how do you bring out the best in you. So I am covering everything from the inside to the outside to just leave these ladies feeling amazing.
So what are your thoughts on reinvention and why is it so important nowadays?
The only way you're not going to fail ever is if you're not trying anything, right? If you're just living a very mediocre life. And so if for all of us who feel like we always want to challenge ourselves and try new things, it's very likely that we're going to fail, right? And so I do believe one of my biggest beliefs is that success is failure turned inside out. And I've shown it over and over again, because sometimes it is when you fail, when you finally learn or get the skills you need to succeed. And again, success is not a one-stop shop, right? It is a journey. It's a lifetime journey. You succeed and then you succeed or whatever. And so when you don't know how to reinvent yourself, then you just get stuck and then you never get out of whatever, challenge you had. So when you fail, what I do is I failed so many times in so many areas. So I fail. And then what I do is I definitely obviously take a little time to feel better or heal, or like I say, rest if you must, because sometimes you're just very hammered. And I try to not rest too long. I just make sure I take a little time to heal whatever it is that affected me. Then I get off, because I say, I'm not going to stay like this. I'm not a victim. I try to learn what was it in my control that I could do better next time. I refocus, and then I try to see, okay, now that I get a new focus, I learn what I could have done better, again, because I can't control other people or life or whatever. And then I look at what new skills or support do I need to keep moving. and going on the new path or the same path, but being more stronger and better equipped. And I keep trying and I keep trying. I always say, sometimes when you're striving, you're trying to get this or that goal. Like I say, let's say it's a no, right? You get a no or something doesn't work out. I always say, no, it's no now and not this way. So I always, when I get enough energy after whatever, challenge I had, I say, well, okay, so how can I get to yes? If it's not now and this way, so how can it be yes? And most of the times you got to work on some stuff. I mean, nothing's like very easy, right? People don't just get to the top by wishing it. You work on it and you try again and you reinvent yourself. So there's one thing that you probably heard it, but life is not about finding yourself, right? It is more about creating yourself. And you got to do that every day. Every day is a new opportunity for a fresh start and to reinvent yourself. So let's say today didn't go out well. Tomorrow you can start again, right?
And I like that you talk about it because as leaders, we do experience setbacks. We do fail many times. We do hope that we learn from these setbacks or failures. How do you ensure that where you're going is the direction that you need to be going? How do you evaluate the direction that you're going towards that is going to be eventually turning into success?
I love that question because it makes me think about something I always tell when I'm trying to inspire people or even myself, right? Because everything I tell you, I use it on me too, right? I have good days and bad days too. And as I said, a lot of failures. So what I learned from somebody at some point was one of my coaches said something that it stuck to me. It says, you don't know if you're going in the right direction if you're parked. And you can just think about it in a car, right? How do you know if you're going in the wrong direction? You start driving and then it's going to tell you, make a U-turn, right? And then you just make a U-turn or whatever, turn right. But if you're parked, how do you know if that's north, south? I mean, I'm not that good at that. So that's what you do. You start moving because some people want to have the perfect plan and the perfect everything and everything aligned. And it's not that way. Just maybe start with a small thing. I mean, don't risk it all, right? And start moving and then see and then turn around like a car, right? Make a U-turn, make a slight right turn, make a left. I don't know, whatever it is that you sort of sense. But I think one of the things I didn't touch on that I think you also want to be supported or by the right people, mentors and support groups that are stronger than you, preferably. That's one of my biggest learnings. I now try to surround myself in everything that I want to be good at with people that are better than me. And guess what? It's not easy all the time. I'm a very competitive person with myself. And when I was younger, I was always used to being number one in everything I did. And I learned that right now I'd rather be last one, but learning so much. And of course, it depends last one in what and when, right? It's not like I want to stay last, but I'm growing. And being with stronger, smarter, more successful people will allow you to grow faster.
So that actually brings me to my next question, which I think you talked a little bit about. Did you have a role model when you started? Because you had 3 businesses. So when you embark on your first business or second or this one, did you have a role model or a mentor that saw you along the way?
So I started my career. My first job was for a Fortune 500. I worked for Procter & Gamble. And I was pretty young, so I didn't even know what a mentor or that I would need one. But that's a company that mentors people very well. So brand management area, and there's brand managers are trained to become eventually CEOs, right? And so we got a lot of stuff. So it was just by good fortune that I ended up being accepted in this company that gave me what I needed to grow. The only problem was that I didn't keep all the growth and things because at that point, I didn't know how to handle my stress. I don't know if I told you, but I'm the first woman in my family who went to college because my mom, for example, wasn't allowed to go to college, even though she's super smart. I wonder what she could have done with her life if she had gotten the training I did. So I was first in my family to go to college, first to work for a company like Procter & Gamble or for a corporation, first to want to go to graduate school because I don't know if I told you, but I went to Harvard Business School. That was my dream. And so first to go to graduate school and to an Ivy League school at once. And then first to start my own companies. I've started companies since I was in my 20s. So being the first, I didn't have any role models. Now I had my father who was sort of like a businessman, but he didn't believe in women doing what I was doing at the age I was doing. So he didn't really mentor me or anything. He actually tried to stop me and he gave me a hard time when I wanted to work and I wanted to stretch myself by going to the top school in the country and working for a tough corporation. So I had to find my own path. So Procter gave me some mentorship leadership in the business, but I didn't have all the right support. Like in the personal part, I had nobody to talk to about my challenges or my fears or my stresses. So what I did is that's when I started using food as my tool to like feel better when I was feeling overstretched. So imagine in the evenings, it was a lot of emotional eating, and I didn't know how much it would affect me eventually. It almost killed me. So that's the first thing about role models. So it was by accident, and it worked because I had a very successful career. I advanced very fast and all that. But obviously, simultaneously, I was destroying myself internally. But the second time I had mentors is later. Okay, so I started making a lot of bad decisions, did some good, mediocre things in the rest of the years while I was like on a decline health mentally and physically. But eventually when I turned things around, one of the biggest learnings I discovered was that I was always trying to do everything alone without any support because I'm strong, right? Or I thought I was strong. And that was my biggest mistake. That was one of the reasons why I had gone on a decline. So once I learned that, I said, okay, well, I got to find the right mentors in everything. In whatever thing I want to succeed, find the right coaches, and then find the right groups. You know, groups are great for support, for motivation, for inspiration. And since I learned that, I have like a lot of mentors and role models and people that I talk to and grow with in different areas, you know, depending if it's on the business, on the lifestyle, on the, you know, personal development, or as a woman, you know, when you're a woman who's a mom, very committed to your family, who's also a business woman, who also is very committed to taking care of herself. I mean, it's hard to fit it all out. So I like having also role models and support groups for that area of my life. How do we women who are passionate about all those areas at the same time, how do we do it? And what are things that are working for you or not working? And somebody that's going to bring you up, not down.
So what I'm hearing is that, you know, in addition to having a mentor, you need to have a support group, but also you need to find that balance, right, in your life to continue to be successful.
Yes, you're right. And I think I didn't mention, I want to emphasize, it's very important on top of those two things to add the healthy eating and lifestyle, because without that, you can't have anything else. I mean, for example, after I got trained and learned, right, I had a very big fall. Even after that, while I was getting really healthy and I was starting to get educated. And one of my biggest tools to turn things around and come out stronger than ever, guess what it was? It was sticking like religiously to my healthy eating, because I knew that was going to give the power, the mental clarity, and the emotional stability to make good decisions in the very big crisis I got myself in, because I was just fortunate enough to have stumbled with nutrition and understand the power. Because had I not known that, and let's say when you're feeling really bad because you have a crisis, what do most people do? They eat comfort food, junk food, they drink. You know, I want to have the most power to then come out stronger and better. Otherwise, just people get stuck longer.
So you were, as I mentioned, you're a serial entrepreneur. You had few companies, you're a leader. And I was wondering, are there any traits that leader needs to have to be a truly successful leader?
Yeah, I think one thing we touched a little is that, you know, you got to build resilience, right? You got to learn how to be resilient so you can, because you're the leader, right? And you got to bounce back fast and better than ever, you know, whenever things don't go well. I think a leader also, you got to learn how to communicate. And when I think about communication, obviously you got to communicate clearly so people understand and can share your vision, but you also have to learn how to listen, right? Which is another part of communication, because sometimes as leaders, we can get into the habit of just talking and saying, when you can learn so much by listening to anybody, people above, below, or to the sides of you, right? So I think communication, I would say leaders have to be passionate and optimistic and have a positivism. So for me, as a leader, being healthy is a key tool to stay positive and optimistic, because remember, it affects my brain, right? So if I'm eating bad food, I'm going to be mentally down, and I'm not going to be positive and optimistic and passionate about the future or overcoming challenges. I think another important thing that I try to do and leaders should do is walk the talk. If you're leading whatever, you know, I'm leading people in health, right? How could I be leading you if I'm not doing it? How could I be telling you how to get healthier, lose weight, feel great if I'm feeling bad, I'm overweight? So I think you got to walk the talk, whatever industry you're in, right? I think a leader also needs to be confident and courageous. And I think, and again, you got to stay mentally and physically fit to be confident and courageous, because I've seen the difference. And then that leads to the same, you got to do whatever it takes to stay emotionally and mentally fit. I think a leader also probably important would be decision making, because you got to make decisions and you got to communicate those decisions and enroll people in those decisions, right? Because a leader doesn't have to do it all, which leads me to a leader should delegate, right? You should know who to delegate to and how to empower them to do it better than you.
Mm-hmm. So this leads me to my next question. Do you believe that all leaders are also good managers?
No, I don't think all of them. I mean, maybe some. In my opinion, there's two big groups of leaders. The visionaries, I would say I'm a lot more a visionary than I am the second. And the visionaries obviously are the ones that are more risk takers. They see the vision, they see new ideas, they convince other people that it's possible, right? And then there are other types of leaders that are more like the managers, the executors, right? The ones that know how to get exactly from point A to point B and can cross all the dots, right? Those, I think if you can find a team, leaders like me should be partnering with leaders would have more of the second set of skills, because that's how you, I think, succeed faster and better. But I tried a lot. I'm not the best at managing details. So I got to surround myself with people that have the skills that I don't have, because I don't have to have all the skills. I just have to really learn how to enhance those that I'm passionate about and that are easy for me, and then just get super good at that.
Mm-hmm. And what I'm also hearing, you need to be open to collaborate and take other people within your team so that you can actually both excel in what you do the best, right?
Correct. And be humble, right? Accept that you're not going to be good or know everything. And I think some of the most successful leaders, as I see, is they always surround themselves with people that are better than them and smarter than them. Right?
So I guess this leads me to my next question. Sometimes team fails and sometimes they don't succeed, or, there are things that happen along the way that they don't reach their goal. And the question that I ask everyone is, do you think that that's leader's fault, that he did not give or she did not give clear examples or clear direction, or it's on team, that team in some respect failed to listen to the leader or follow the instructions?
I feel uncomfortable choosing one or the other, but I think as a leader, I would always take accountability for not reaching the goals, because either I didn't empower the team correctly, right? Or I didn't communicate the goals clearly. I mean, I'm accountable for reaching the goals as a leader, right? If I don't have the right team, it's not their fault, right? If I didn't train them well or communicate well, it's not their fault. It is my responsibility. And the way I would see it is, how can I do things better? How can I help people better? How can I communicate different so that it can work? But I wouldn't just blame the team, because I think responsibility has to start with the head.
So what you're saying to us, the leader needs to take a responsibility and be very introspective about how he's going to move on or she's going to move on.
Yeah, because it's not that I didn't do the thing or it was all my fault. It doesn't matter. I don't look at fault. It just means that I didn't understand how to correctly build the right team or give them the right tools or whatever it was that I needed to do, depending on what the case it was. And I just got to try again in a different way.
Why do you think it's so important to have a cross-cultural awareness when you're leading others?
That's very close to my heart. I think coming from another country, and one of the things that I think I did right is I went always to international schools in my home country. So for me, I grew up knowing that there's just different cultures, different ways to live, different ways to think. And it was just very natural for me. So I was able to adjust when I came here. When I went to Harvard Business School, that was probably the first time I was exposed to a worldwide culture, because that's how they select the classes. They want people that are very strong and successful, but from different cultures. And it is magical what happens, because let's say in the business school where we deal with business cases, you could see how every person coming from a different culture and background could add a different perspective. And if you translate that to a business situation or a company, I mean, that could be the most powerful team, because what I don't see, somebody else will see, because whatever, way they were exposed to or values. So I think it's very, very important. And I think if you can then understand how powerful that could be and take the time as a leader to understand those values and those differences, then you will be able to be a better communicator. And as we discussed, communication is one of the key habits or attributes that a good leader must have. So I think once you understand the differences, then you can do a better integration, so that then you can support your teams and your people better. And then you can also find ways that you can benefit from the different strengths that different cultures bring to the table, and of course support them in different ways. You can identify certain strengths, but they may have some other weaknesses for the particular case or business at hand, and you can support them better. There's nothing wrong. You just want to, like, if they need to have that skill, like let's say for some reason in the culture you were brought up, like in Mexico, or, we may have culture may have imposed on us certain things that may not be good for a corporation, right, or for a startup. And so they could have supported me, right, with things that if I had the will and the drive, I just needed certain skills that I just didn't have the opportunity to develop. So that would be great if I was the person being under that one leader. And I would say that the more you understand them, allow them to become stronger and a better part of the team, the happier and effective team you're going to have. And a happy and effective team, guess what? Gives better businesses. And so you as a leader will have better results. And so I think definitely make sure, if you can, bring different cultures into your teams and just try to understand. Make sure you're trained to understand what are the possible strengths and weaknesses that they may have, or observe or ask, right? I think one of the biggest skills we can develop, we already talked about it, is listening. So listening to people and see what they are missing or what else they can bring to the solution or the business growth.
So my next question is about the conflict in a workplace. And you mentioned that you previously worked for a big corporation at the beginning of your career. And I was just wondering, what are your thoughts on the conflict in the workplace?
So I think in my early years in the first company, I was just good with people skills. Like I was good with getting along and building the right support from up, down, and across. And that allowed me to be successful because people wanted to help me. People like working with me. People like supporting me. I must have gotten some training at the time. They train us a lot at Procter & Gamble, and I probably implemented it well. But I remember having that ability where people were willing to go, beyond whatever they need to do to help me and support whatever project I was with. Later in life, I also was a co-founder of 2 community banks, which was interesting. It's a different industry. It's male dominated. Like I was in one occasion, one of 2 founders and board directors. In the second occasion, I was the only woman. I was the youngest person of the founders and on the board of directors. And it's a publicly traded company. And I was the only woman. So younger and only woman. So there I had to experience a few things. And we did have some big conflict with the leadership. And I think you have to be very careful, and you have to work in teams, and that as a board of directors, you have fiduciary duties to do whatever is the best for the shareholders' interest, right? So it was very interesting on how you got to see how you align people. If you see a conflict and you sort of want to find solutions, how do you get everybody's best skills and ability to resolve that thing and talk and find solutions and then do the smoother, resolution. In that case, we had to remove somebody and that was not easy. So it was a very, very interesting, but I wasn't just only me. It was me as part of a team, a board of directors who wanted the best thing for the shareholders.
What you're saying to us, you had to come to the common resolution.
And be patient. Sometimes you can't resolve it right away because it will be costly or damaging. And that's something I've had to learn, right? You got to see the right time and be prepared with all the possible outcomes, right? When you implement radical changes to resolve a conflict, what could happen? And look at it from all angles. So having a lot of eyes seeing it is going to bring a lot of perspectives, which allow you to prepare in case things go bad.
And I guess this leads me to my next question. What is, in your opinion, most difficult part of being a leader?
I find for me, one of the most difficult parts to be a leader is it's finding good people and training them. It's very, I think a good leader is somebody who has a great team. And I think that's one of the challenges that we all have. Sometimes you think you found the right people and they're not the right people, or, it's just you have to start all over again. But I think one of the things I've learned through my experiences is that you got to trust your intuition. If something's not working, it's not going to get better. And sometimes you just got to make the difficult changes early on, right? So that you have the best team, even if it means cost or having to train somebody again. But every time I've not listened to that, I regret it later because the outcome is the same. The person didn't work or they left or whatever, and I just wasted all this time, right? And I think the second thing trying to deal with that I've learned from other leaders, that when we share things is that you gotta hire people for attitude and train for skills. Mm-hmm. Because sometimes we try to do the other thing and you can't change attitude, but you can develop skills. So it's a hard thing because sometimes you hire somebody that doesn't have the right skills, but the great attitude. And sometimes those tend to be great team members. Mm-hmm. And I find finding good people is the most challenging things that we have for, and then also sometimes keeping people accountable and motivated. Sometimes people can be not very as driven as you are, right? And they're just like maybe trying to get a job for, and do their least. And it's hard for people like us who are so passionate, where we're going to give our best when people are not as responsible or accountable or as committed to the vision.
Mm-hmm. I really like that you mentioned that it's a combination of finding the right attitude and skills. Do you think that one is over the other, or it's 50-50, perfect attitude and good skills, or maybe even you're better off having someone with the right attitude but less skills?
I think as far as like whether it's 50% attitude, 50% skills, I don't know. But I do think that you can change attitude. A bad attitude but great skills is not going to do it at all. I think you got to make sure everybody has to have a great attitude, and then hopefully they have some skills. But if not, you got to understand or figure out if that person's going to be able to, if you have the resources and the ability to build the skills. But I would say it has to be more attitude than skills for sure, because bad attitude will be difficult at the end of the day, will be more costly, can corrupt your whole team. And so you want to definitely get rid of bad attitudes.
And can you tell me, in your opinion, how do you get others to come on board with your ideas?
I think one of the things we talked about that a leader has to have is clear communication, right? So you got to learn how to communicate clear, and you got to establish or define your vision in a way that is inspiring and you get people excited, right? And so it's a way of what it is that you're trying to accomplish, but also how you communicate that. Because, if you communicate things in a very blunt, you're not going to get people on board. So I think what you communicate and how you communicate is very important to get people to come aboard. And then also probably thinking ahead of time, what are the objections and things you're going to have to overcome? What are going to be people's fears? What are they be worried about? And so you probably want to try to address those and give people the trust and the confidence that you got their back and they're going to be able to do it. And probably also establish that there's a clear path to communicate with you anytime, right? If they are finding it challenging to understand or to comply or commit to it. But I think you got to sort of like look at it and like, how do you make it really exciting to people want to travel to the destination you've defined that is the next stop? And then how do you give them confidence and trust that you've thought about everything that could affect them or could go wrong? And then probably also try to get some ambassadors, right? Some people there's always those people that are easier, what they call, the quick starters, like they'll jump into new things. Exciting, it's easy, and there's always the people that need a lot more time and information. So I think you want to know who you count with and how you can get them on board faster, and maybe even use them to like help you, get the other people on board. So there's going to be different timings for different people and how they can get excited about a project. But it's up to us. Again, if it's not this way, then which way, right? What else can we do that will increase people's commitment and excitement? Because you want them to be excited and happy to work with you to reach that destination.
So that's very interesting, because what you're saying to us, you got to stay creative, you got to be clear with your communication, and you got to constantly be curious, right? So
yes,
that
exactly.
leads me to my next question. How does curiosity, clarity, and being truly genuine helps you when you make unreasonable requests upon your employees or your team?
One of the things I've learned over the last few years that I'm very committed to is that a rising tides, lifts all boats, which addresses the generosity. So if you can lead your life and your business with generosity, meaning giving before asking, then you're going to start receiving, and so whether it's from employees, from partners, from other divisions, whatever the case it is. So you always try to see, how can I help you? How can I support you before you ask them for something in return? And you start doing that, and then that builds trust and loyalty and relationship that is going to come back to you, 10 times. So I do feel that being generous, it's actually going to help you in many, many ways. And I've tried it, and you can't be too generous ever. I mean, it's just something that you got to think every day. How can I support you before I even think about how you can help me?
And what I like about it, you actually put people first, right?
Yeah, and that you said also curiosity, right? But I think you also, which sort of like goes hand in hand with listening, right? And being curious about like, okay, what is he really trying to say? How is he really feeling, or she, right? Mm-hmm. And being curious about, what could I do? What could I inspire? What tools could I suggest that will allow this person to do even better or feel better or live better, so that then that person will be a even stronger addition to the team. So always be curious, whatever you tried now, it's not the only way. So always be open to new ideas, new solutions, new ways of doing things.
So do you believe that being assertive helps you lead better?
Oh, for sure. I mean, you do have to be assertive, but then be willing to step back and listen and then see whether it makes sense, right? If it doesn't make sense or you're not sure, then get some other opinions, with people that are at your level or higher, bounce the idea, but always consider that even if it sounds sometimes not good, it could be the best thing that could be added for that particular project or goal. And so I do think start by being assertive, but be willing to step back and, stay quiet and listen to what other people are saying, because sometimes you'll get the best way by listening.
And I know that you're a frequent speaker on resilience. Can you tell us a little bit relationship between resilience and leadership?
Well, I think what we talked about resilience is that it's the ability to bounce back, right? Mm-hmm. The ability to be able to overcome challenges. I think a key thing that worked for me and why I think I'm resilient, I must have developed it somehow growing up, is that, if you're resilient, you need to not blame others or feel like a victim, right? In some of my biggest crises, I've never felt like, okay, well, oh my God, whatever my life, it's always, what could I have done differently? And so that's one of the things that I think resilient people do. You embrace the challenge or the problem, you don't blame others, and then I think you get supported as needed. I think you also then probably focus on what you can control, again, which is tied up with not being a victim, because there are certain things that you can't control. So then you look back, I think I gave you that example in my own challenges. You look back, okay, what could I control? What could I do better? Mm-hmm. And I think leaders have to be resilient, because once you get, okay, you say, well, I need support right now because I needed to build the skills, or I just need support just to be able to overcome this challenge. And then I'm going to focus on those things that I can control. You also try to think positively and believe that you can get out of this, or you can, achieve your goals. Because I do think leaders and resilient people have to think positively. You have to believe that it's possible. Maybe not easy, maybe not cheap, maybe not fast, but it is possible. Mm-hmm. So positivity and optimistic is very, very important. And again, leaders and resilient people, you have to try again. Mm-hmm. And last, I would say, as a nutrition and health coach, you don't neglect your health ever. You need your healthy lifestyle, good food, and good habits like sleeping, exercise, if you want to be a good leader and if you want to be resilient. So I almost feel like the answer goes hand in hand to both. We can focus it on one angle or the other, but it's the same exact things that I see for both.
And what is your leadership style, would you say?
I think I'm definitely visionary. I do feel like I have a natural ability to use positivism and charm, and personality in order to lead, and that works for me. But, it's not my only tool. I do obviously empower myself with expertise and, experience. But then the other type of leadership that I feel applies to me it's called pace setting. which I do tend to set very high standards for performance, and I want things better and faster all the time. And some people can go as fast. So I think every person's different. And as a leader, it's our job to figure out how can I make you the best? How can I make you feel the best and be the most effective and achieve the results that we all need to achieve?
And any thoughts or suggestions for women leaders?
You know, as a health coach and caring so much about health as we've been discussing, one of the first things I would like to suggest is that as women leaders, we should be role models on how to live a healthy and balanced life. Success is worth it and we should go all out, but we definitely have to take care of ourselves first. You know, we got to eat right and we got to develop healthy habits. And self-care needs to come first, health and self-care. If you don't do that, everything you've been working on for, it's going to be wasted, which happened to me for 10 years. So I don't want any of those leaders to do that. So that's number one. I would say number two suggestion would be you should get some mentors and champions. They should be both women and men. They should be people that are higher up in the organization or in other organizations that can really go out for you and are going to mentor you in the things, the skills, the techniques, the training you need to do to keep going up. And I say women and men because, you know, they can give you different perspectives and different things you need. So I think it's very, very important. And then I would say outside of work, you need to be part of support groups of women like you who are trying to achieve everything and keep that balanced life where it's a little different than men because we have different things that we need to deal with. And I found it very hard when I was in male-dominated industries and I didn't surround myself outside of that situation with strong women like me where we could bounce ideas and I could see what they were doing to deal with the challenges that we as women have. So I've been doing that since then and it's been a really powerful tool for me. And last, I would say, as a woman, you're not a victim. We have no limitations. You just have to prepare to win the race because you can win. You just got to do the work.
And what is your mission in life?
My mission with everything I've learned and everything I suffered is I want to empower as many people as I can to get healthy, lose weight, and feel great with the power of delicious food.
And how can people get in contact with you or use your services?
So thank you. They can find out in social media. My handles are Flaca Forever, Flaca Forever. Again, that means lean and fit forever. And then in my website is flacaforever.com or themexicanfooddiet.com.
Wonderful. And people can get your book on Amazon.
Yes, it is available on Amazon. They can get the book. If they want to experience at least some of the recipes, you can go to either of my two websites and I have a sample of some of my best recipes from the book. So you can at least try them. And then if you like them, contact me or get the book. So I want to make it easy for you. I do want you to experience that it doesn't have to be hard and you can do it. You got it and you need to do it because I think most of your listeners are passionate to lead and to succeed. So you need the good food and I am here for you.
Thank you so much, Maru. Thank you for being a guest.
Oh, I'm honored to be. I'm so grateful that you invited me. I look forward to any other time you can invite.
Thank you for tuning in and listening to the Leadership with Biana Kovic Show. Remember that you're all leaders in your own rights and the impact that you're meant to achieve starts with small acts of kindness, curiosity, and generosity. Please give us a like and subscribe to our channel. Thank you again, and until next time.